Chapter 5. I've never played paddleball, Rachel says as she slides into the backseat of the miner's BMW. Hi, Helena. I'm not even sure what paddleball is. Do you paddle a ball or what? Is it like ping pong? Nervousness makes her talk too much. Hello, Mr. Miner. Hello, Mrs. Miner. Helena, are you sure about this? Maybe I should just get out and take a rain check or something. You're going to do fine. Helena pulls up her white wool socks. She's wearing a heavy white cable-stitch sweater, navy pants, white sneakers. Rachel quickly checks out her own outfit. Green cords, brown wool sweater, tan windbreaker. Definitely not great like Helena's. Paddleball's really not a hard game to pick up, Mrs. Miner says. Am I dressed okay? Rachel says to Helena. You can wear anything to play paddleball. Stop worrying. You're going to get enough of a handle on the game to have fun right away. Helena, you're talking to the original uncoordinated kid. I'm lucky I learned to skip rope. The only Cooper I know of who isn't totally unathletic is my brother Jeremy. There are rumors he voluntarily plays basketball every Saturday. In the front seat, Mr. Miner chuckles. This gives Rachel a nice little heart palpitation. Helena's father is so handsome. Rachel appreciates greatly that she's sitting where she has an excellent view of his profile. Too bad it's so warm today, he says. The best play is when it's around 20. No, when it goes down to about 10, Mrs. Miner says. Degrees? Rachel says, getting a laugh out of the miners. Only she was serious, but so are they. This is an outside game, Mr. Miner instructs, turning around. And the best time to play it is when it's cold. The ball is perfect then. Ah, Rachel says. She has never really understood people who do all these healthy, beneficial cold things. Do you do any winter sports, Rachel? Mr. Miner asks. Biggest winter sport in our family is keeping warm. She gets another laugh. Helena nudges her. What'd you do last night? The usual. How about you, Mikey? Right. We went to the movies. You should have seen him, right? He was wearing a new blue sweater. Looked supremely gorgeous. Since her parents are right there, Helena doesn't say anything else. Mrs. Miner pulls up in front of the paddleball court. Getting out of the car, Rachel eyes the courts uneasily. There we go. They look like enormous bird cages. There are half-sized tennis courts on raised platforms, enclosed by 12-foot-high wire fences. Okay, she tells herself, it's going to be an experience, and everybody knows writers need experience. Mrs. Miner hands Rachel a wooden racket with holes in it. The two of them play against Helena and Mr. Miner. We keep score just like tennis, Rachel, Mrs. Miner says, as if Rachel knows anything about tennis. Any more about tennis than she does about paddleball. Move up to the net when I do. Rachel, that's the way. Good try. Helena's mother encourages Rachel, compliments her every time she does something even vaguely right. But they keep losing games anyway. It's Rachel's fault. She knows it's her fault. She wonders if she ought to apologize, although Helena's mother doesn't seem to mind a bit. When Rachel makes a particularly inept move, swinging the racket and missing the ball by a mile, Mrs. Miner laughs and makes a joke of it, showing splendid big white teeth. If Rachel were about 3 years younger, she'd have a crush on Mrs. Miner. As it is, she smiles weakly and tries even harder. But they still lose every game. Later, while Mr. and Mrs. Miner play another set of rounds, Rachel and Helena sit in the hut, a little room between the two courts. Helena breaks out cans of soda and opens a bag of corn chips. Isn't it fun? She says. Yeah, but I'm such a klutz. You're not. Don't say things like that. Don't put yourself down. I know. Smile, smile, smile. Well, it doesn't hurt. Anything interesting happened in school yesterday? Such as, Rachel says, although she immediately thinks of Louis Allswanger. Anything? Helena says. Well, there was one little thing. Yes? Helena leans forward. No big deal, but it was sort of nice. She tells Helena about Louis, starting from the beginning with that shivery feeling down her neck. She takes her time telling the story, putting in Rhoda Rivers, her doubts, Louis's ears, all the little details, as every writer does. Before she finishes, it's time to go and they let it drop. So it's not until Helena stops off at Rachel's house that Rachel gets to tell her about the way Louis Allswanger left the library. They're outside. Rachel's raking leaves and Helena's sitting cross-legged on the picnic table. Under the Norway maple. Under the Norway maple. What an interesting sentence. That's it? Helena says. He just left like that? He only looked at you? He didn't speak to you? He didn't say anything to you? Nothing? Well, he was all the way across the room, Rachel says, leaning on the rake. Oh, big excuse. If he wanted to talk to you. We don't know that, Rachel says. All we know is that he was staring at me. Maybe he got me mixed up with someone else. No, Helena says. He didn't. Maybe he's nearsighted. No, Rachel says. Helena says. He's not. Maybe he's researching library usage, counting the number of females at each library table. No, Helena says. He isn't. How come you're so knowledgeable? Helena rocks a little. There's a satisfied expression on her round, pretty face. Well, Rachel, I might as well tell you. I was talking about you. A wind blows across the yard, blows through heaps of leaves. Rachel freezes. She hates people to talk about her. She doesn't know why. It's just something in her nature. Talking about me? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Helena sings out teasingly. Talk, talk, talk. Why? Why? What do you mean, why? Don't you want to know who I was talking to about you? Then Helena answers herself. Louis and Mikey. Louis Allswanger? Uh-huh. Helena sings out again. Her smile grows bigger. Rachie, he's Mikey's cousin. She watches Rachel with a mischievous look, waiting for something to sink in. He came over to my house the other day with Mikey. Didn't say a word the whole time. Funny boy. And I thought of you. And I said your name. Rachel gathers an armful of leaves and shoves them into a plastic bag. My name? That's all you said? All that staring and gazing was just because you said my name? Well, no. No, I admit I did a bit more than that. Louis said he knew you, and I said, of course he knew you. Everybody knows you. You know, because you did. Then I did a little PR. Helena holds up her hands, Girl Scout fashion. But only the truth. I said what a great person you are, how smart and funny. I said you were really intelligent. I figured that would get Louis interested, because he's a pretty smart guy himself. You know, Mikey and I talked it over later, and we think you two are the perfect match. Oh, Helena, I wish you hadn't said anything. It makes me feel like a specimen. But Rachel, are you mad? It's only because I love you. Here I am with Mikey, and you have no one. It's not fair. And Louis has no one either. Rachel doesn't know what to say. She's really embarrassed, plus a little angry. Louis Allswanger had been primed. It wasn't her, Rachel, who caught his attention. It was remembering that his cousin's girlfriend practically begged him to give poor boyfriendless Rachel Cooper... Oh, come on. Okay. poor boyfriendless Rachel Cooper a little attention. Oh, forget it, she tells herself. Louis Olswanger is nothing to her. Louis Olswanger is less than nothing. If he were to materialize this moment in front of her, she wouldn't spare him a glance. If he were to beg her to talk to him, she'd sweep past him as if he were invisible. If he fell down on his hands and knees in front of her and groveled, she'd step over him as easily as if he were no more than a heap of dried up leaves. She shoves another armful of leaves into the bag and steps down on them. Then she closes the bag and twists it into knots with as much satisfaction as if it were Louis's neck between her hands. Yay!